Hello and good morning, Jefferson. Welcome back to another episode of JPod, our own podcast. And I'm your host, Superintendent Brad Capener. As always, I'm joined by my co-hosts, Becca, Mallery, and Christopher Shaw. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. How are y'all today?
We're good.
Happy Friday. We're
just slogging through February here, and but I'm told that spring is close.
I hope so.
So
the ants in my house tell me it's close.
I agree.
Yeah. Well, something about a groundhog. I don't know. Anyway, I am excited to be back here today and talking to our community about artificial intelligence, AI.
Yes.
It's a big talk right now, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It is. If you've seen Mission Impossible, the latest Mission Impossible, it's all about AI taking over the world kind of thing.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet. Okay, no spoilers.
It's good.
It beats Tom Cruise. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's good. But it is a very relevant topic right now because as AI becomes more and more a part of our lives in education, we have to contend with this, right?
Yep.
And so, one of the challenges I think in education is that we, for teachers, students can go on to this thing called ChatGPT, and there's other AI models too, but that's a really popular one. They can go on to ChatGPT and put in, history of Andrew Jackson, and it'll in like seconds produce this entire paper, and a student could go ahead and turn that in, and so it could create this idea of students not really doing their own work and having an artificial intelligence do it. So we wanted to talk about that today because, and just overall, the idea of the technology of AI. And to do that, who better than our guests or my co-hosts right here? Because not only are they my co-hosts, but they are also the tech directors and tech support here in this district, and doing very much involved in understanding AI and getting kind of in the forefront of AI for our school district to understand how it can be used, how the benefits of it, and how we can kind of potentially guard against some of those concerns that we talked about. So anyway, thanks guys for being here, and thanks for starting the conversation with AI. I think it would be helpful, Chris, to just kind of get everybody understanding what artificial intelligence is, when we say AI, and you had mentioned that there's like two different types. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yes. So, first off, AI is just computer language that processes information, and it does it in a way that it kind of mimics human thinking. Now, it's for the most part still just doing if-then-else logic. But because of advances in computer programming and advances in the speed of computers, today it does a great job relative to when it started in the 1940s.
And isn't that crazy? AI is not brand new. It's been around since 1940.
I thought it was like 2 years old.
Right?
No. It's been in development since the 1940s. Alan Turing was the first person to really come up with the predictive models that AI was based off of.
Oh, that's that movie.
Imitation Game.
Benedict Cumberbatch was in that movie, and he was Alan Turing, and it was like this. They had to do this like code machine, right, to beat the Nazis.
That's correct.
I feel like I need to watch more movies.
Yeah. He basically built one of the first computers that was used to beat the Enigma machine that the Germans were using during World War II to send coded messages.
So that was AI.
Yeah,
okay.
that was, those concepts were the groundwork that people built off of.
Oh, gotcha.
I think that kind of lays the foundation of, when you talk to anybody on the street, you say the word AI, they instantly think about the robots that are being built in like Tesla and self-driving cars and ChatGPT. But ultimately, AI is so much more than that. Think about like your GPS driving app, right? Google Maps is considered AI. That's if you make this turn, then we're going to tell you here's the next direction. If you make the wrong turn, then we have to find a new route. And so it's so much more than just a robot.
So you were talking the early 40s one and up until then is predictive AI. Would that be correct?
That would be predictive AI.
Okay.
Correct.
So, but now what the change is and why it's such a buzz now in our world and why it's so rapidly changing is
generative AI.
So let's talk about that. How did that all come about? Why do we have generative? How does that work?
So generative AI is just built off the same concepts as predictive AI. And so computers and everything have gotten so much better that they can now go in and say, okay, we're going to take knowledge from books, papers, everything that we fed into it, and then it can take and basically regurgitate that information. And so imagine it's like you've been asked to go do a research paper and you got a topic and you're going to the library and you're pulling books, you're pulling papers, and you're assimilating all that information. Well, all that information is now in computers and where ChatGPT can get to it. And so instead of you having to go pull all that stuff, you can say, ChatGPT, go pull me this information on this subject. And it's going through the wealth of data available and pulling it all back in a logical format.
Oh, so I could actually see that being a support, like for students. If I'm doing a research paper on, the 1940s depression and the causes of the depression, and I put in 1940s depression causes, it would give me just in seconds all the different causes, and then I could take that, and so I at least have the outline of what it is that caused the depression and some of maybe the implications of those things, and then turn that into my own paper, just like you would do it anytime you research something.
Absolutely. And so most of what AI is bringing back is all information in the public domain. So you're not getting back like copyright. You aren't getting back anything that's someone else's work. It's all being pulled as pieces and parts. So with AI, you can cite it as a source, just like you would cite the encyclopedia or a book or a scientific article.
So let me ask you about that, though, because if it's pulling from everywhere, can it pull from things that they shouldn't be pulling from? I mean, like if I wrote a book and all of a sudden it's on there, I didn't give it permission to share. I mean, can't that go wrong?
So it can, but they're just taking pieces and parts from information, and so they're synthesizing it. So it's no longer just like, it's not going to bring back and just be like, here is all of Brad Kapner's paper and give it to you. It's going to be like, here's some ideas and concepts from Brad's paper, just like if someone else was doing research and citing those sources.
So if I did let's say I'm a business person and I want to put together a contract. So I put in there a business contract for, a rental agreement or something,
Yes.
Right? It's going to pull up a rental agreement that's out there already. So
it's going to synthesize a rental agreement based upon the data that's in its system. So it may be looking at hundreds, maybe thousands of rental agreements. And you might be able to say, I need a rental agreement, and I need that rental agreement to cover XYZ, renter's insurance, pets, but I'm not going to allow pets, or I'm not going to allow this, so exclude these type of clauses. And it would synthesize that from the samples available.
And what's amazing is it does it in seconds.
Yes.
So it's taking all of this vast information and putting it together. I was under the impression it was like maybe it's just taking already written agreements that are already out there and just giving it to you. But it's not doing that.
No, it is synthesizing information and pulling
ultimately
it together.
It's creating something that's never been created before.
Right.
So
to an extent.
I mean, like in the sense of it's pulling X from here and Y from here and Z from here, and that might have never been combined together. So this document is the first time that it's been created, because the stuff that I would put into that rental agreement might be different than what you guys would want in that rental agreement. Maybe I want to make sure that I cover pandemic causes again, so that, right? But not everybody would come up with the same set of rules that you would want. And so ultimately you are creating something that's never been created, which I think also then creates the problem of when do you know the difference between something that's been AI written versus something that's been written by a human?
And that can be the challenge of it, and it's all about how people are using it. So, one of the things about AI is it can pull information together, but it's only as good as the information it can grab. AI can give you incorrect information. And if you think something's incorrect and you ask your AI, are you sure this is correct? AI is going to double down and be like, oh, yeah, I'm sure about that.
Wikipedia said.
Oh,
So,
well, it wasn't there, and I don't have the facts in my head, but it was some story recently about journalism, like a newspaper guy that wrote something, and he looked up AI to get his sources, but these sources were false.
correct. And there's been instances where people have written briefs for courts and used AI to write the briefs, and they hadn't checked them, and some of them were not correct. So one of the key lessons to learn is AI is going to generate something for you. It'll probably get you 80% of the way there. And you then have to make sure you have to vet what it's giving you. Make sure it's correct, do your due diligence, and then make it your own.
Yeah. I had a really interesting conversation about AI with my college students at OSU. And we talked about the pros and cons. And because, OSU has a policy, you can't use AI as cheating, and you can be thrown out of school. But yet, you get these papers that read very much like ChatGPT,
Right.
So having this conversation about what are some of the benefits, I guess, of this technology in education? One of the things that came out was it's a real support.
Yes.
So to not outlaw it or to say, we're not going to use it, because the reality is it's here and it's here to stay.
Yep.
But how we can use it is kind of an assistant, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it as somebody, like you have your own personal assistant helping you with your product, it can make it much more efficient and you much more productive.
Yeah,
Correct.
You might run into a writer's block. I do that all the time when I'm creating a script for my presentation. And having something to say, I need something that talks about blank, that can kind of start the path of like, oh, this is how I wanted to word it. I feel like instead of usually we would call and say, hey, okay, so I need to word it like this. This is what I'm thinking. Like, you've got a computer, so you don't have to necessarily call on him.
So one of the things that kind of fascinated me was I was at a conference recently, and the hot topic was AI. Someone put up this image, and it was a picture of books, a picture of a TI-83 or 81 calculator, and a picture of a computer. And they're like, what do all these things have in common? All of them were banned by schools in the beginning until they became widely adapted. And now
Can you think about that?
Yeah.
Graphing calculator. Like, I lived off of that in high school.
I remember I'm dating myself. I remember when they first came out, and math teachers did not want you using them because you're cheating, and you could program formulas in there and all sorts of things. And now they're standard.
I think that leads to a quote that you shared with me that you had learned from the TECA from Karen. What is Karen Lakini? Is that how you say her name?
Yeah, professor of business administration at Harvard.
Saying artificial intelligence won't replace humans, but humans with artificial intelligence will replace humans without artificial intelligence.
Oh,
and
let's
so
talk
it's
about
not
that.
like we're so scared that AI is going to take your job away from you. But ultimately, it comes down to the people who know how to use AI. Those are the ones that are going to replace the ones that don't want to use AI, because that's the world we're in right now. Is you're getting this extra tool. We have to know how to use that. And I think it's important to teach our kids that, because when they get into the workforce, that's going to be the expectation.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of the benefits, like in education from a teacher standpoint. So you can use AI to automate and generate lesson plans, where you give it the standards you're wanting to cover, and it will go create the lesson plan. Then you can tell it, I need you to also create this lesson plan for me in Spanish and Ukrainian, and it will generate those for you. And then you can tell it, I need this lesson plan differentiated on these levels so that it's personalized for different levels within my classroom. And it'll do all that for you in seconds. So all the time that you're spending creating these lesson plans and getting things are, oh my gosh, I just got sick. I need lesson plans for my sub. Now you can get in there, generate these things, speed of light. And then you just check through them, make sure they're like you want. And you can even adjust them with more prompts and get them just like you want. And it's so much faster. Imagine the time that you save doing that.
Well, the time you save is amazing, right? But it's also the planning process. We struggle sometimes doing that differentiation, right? It's being able to put a lesson plan together that looks at different levels of learners, or let's say your English learners, somebody who doesn't understand the language. And if you're going to be bringing in certain vocabulary, academic vocabulary that they're not going to know, and if they don't know it, then they can't follow the lesson. It's being able to think ahead of what it is you're going to be teaching, and be able to have a lesson plan that handles and works with all that. A lot of teachers still struggle with building lesson plans like that. And sometimes they have to get special training, on how to differentiate, or on how to work with English learners, or, we call sometimes the sheltered instruction, right? And try to help kids with that. So now what I'm hearing you saying is we can put a lesson like that together in seconds that can help somebody who hasn't really, looked at that before, and now they can teach that way.
Yep.
So the big key, I think everybody should come out in the education field, is that personalized learning is coming so that individuals can get lessons, learning, tutoring that's all catered to them and their needs.
I mean, it's actually already here. Think about the program we talk about often is iExcel. iExcel is AI driven because it depends on the way the student answers, how quickly they answer that question. Are they partially correct or completely correct or completely incorrect? And then based on that, it'll gear them towards a lesson or a task that will help build their skill set. And so each student that they're learning is tailored based on their individual skills. That's all AI.
So just to go back, iExcel is our software that we use to look at data to see how our students are progressing, but it also helps remediate. So it helps students who are behind and helps them at their level to bring them up to where they need to be, say, in math.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. I didn't really think about that as being AI, but it is, right? AI is all over the place.
It's everywhere.
all over the
Google,
place.
Siri, Alexa.
Yeah.
Navigation,
Navigation,
smartwatches.
Oh, yeah. Is it going to replace us? I mean,
I don't
It
think
is
so.
not. Because there's things that AI doesn't do well. And the one thing that is important in schools is the human connection.
as you say that, I know we're about out of time, but as you say that, I'm at the point now where I can tell a paper when I read it is AI written, ChatGPT, and I can tell when it's a student because there's just that personal voice,
Yeah.
Right.
right? And sometimes, and that's what I say is I question them. I'm like, where are you in this? I'm not hearing you. So I'm not going with you cheated. I can tell. I'm going in with your personal voice is not coming through here. It's very formal.
Mhm.
And can we work with that? And which forces them then to write their own paper, right?
Or
Right.
at least read the one that ChatGPT wrote and make edits.
Right. Maybe they just get really good at that.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that is going to be important is emphasis on process in education, the process of writing, stuff like that, more than what the end product is. Because I think a lot of the kids wanting to go to ChatGPT is, well, I want a good paper so I get the good grade. But the important thing is the process that's involved to get you there.
Yeah.
And so part of that emphasis is what's kind of needed in schools to make kids go, okay, it's not about just the end grade. It's about learning this process and enjoying that process.
So in conclusion here, I'm wrapping it up. This is a good thing. I'm hearing.
Yes.
that is a support for kids. And not only is it a support that we can use to make our lives better and be better at being, at school, but it's also something that we need to be in front of if we're going to stay competitive.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And the technology department is about to do a deep dive into this subject so that we can help our school advance and be on top of it in Oregon.
That's really cool. And once again, Jefferson on the move. Jefferson is on the forefront of change. We're in the forefront of literacy, early literacy. One of the only districts in the state where a whole school has adopted this literacy program called Letters. And we're also, with our technology, looking far in the future and seeing about how we can support our kids so they can be as competitive as kids in big cities and elsewhere. So congratulations. Good job, guys. I love it, and love the conversation today.
All right. Thanks.
Well, next time.
Well, yeah, we'll have more on this as this develops. Thank you.
Yes.
All right.